Brazil has their impressive nature, year-round warm weather, vibrant cities, colorful culture, and friendly locals. Would Brazil be your retirement destination? Hello everyone, this is Jordan Blue, and if you're new to this channel, welcome. This channel is all about how my girlfriend and I achieved financial independence and debt freedom 3 years back since paying off our mortgage. With my newfound freedom, I talk about how we made it happen, the types of passive income we have that anyone could implement, our thoughts of early retirement overseas, personal thoughts, and general financial issues. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss our weekly content full of information helping you get to financial independence yourself. Today's topic would be on the 8 best reasons to retire to Brazil. Just as a disclaimer, the information provided is a general guide and to be used for educational purposes only. Deciding where to live in Brazil is as complex as deciding whether you want to move to Brazil in the first place, but let's look at some points in detail to look over coming now. Number 1. Culture in Brazil. Brazil would be the world's 5th largest country in geographical expansion and the largest nation in Latin America. It's the size of the continental United States, excluding Alaska. Its 2 largest cities are Rio de Janeiro and São Paulo. The population of Brazil was about 209 million in 2017. Despite its large population, about 80% of all Brazilians still live within 200 miles of the Atlantic coast. The modern Brazilian way of life formed today is a mixture of indigenous Indians, Africans, Portuguese, and other smaller groups. And the Portuguese culture is by far the dominant of these influences. Their language, their main religion, and most of their customs are Portuguese. The Indian population, although small, still continues to strongly influence the Brazilian Portuguese language, as well as the Brazilian culture. African influences on Brazilian way of life is with their traditional foods, religions, popular music and dance, especially the samba. The Northeast has the greatest proportion of people of African descent. The South and Southeast are home to a bulk of Brazilians of European and Japanese ancestry, while the indigenous people live largely to the north and central west. Those regions attracted new immigrants from Europe, the Middle East, and Japan who established family farms and eventually urban businesses. The well-known Brazilian Carnaval is famous as an annual ceremony celebrated all over the country 46 days before Easter as a form of farewell to bad omens before the death and resurrection of Jesus. Number 2. Places to live in Brazil. Rio de Janeiro. The first place you think of living in Brazil would be Rio. This area has its carpeted mountains, its white sand beaches, and 500 years of architectural styles, making it one of the world's most beautiful cities and the most fun. It has a mixture of its nature and culture, its laid-back beachy vibe, and its charm and warmth, and the city has earned a nickname, the Marvelous City. Rio is definitely the best-known city in Brazil. Many still think it's the country's capital. It's Brasilia, by the way. You're surrounded by world-famous attractions, and you do have to put up with hordes of tourists on a daily basis if you live nearby. It does have a large expat community, however, and you are likely to hear your own language and feel more at home. And you'll be visiting a gorgeous sandy beach every day, sunbathing, or even playing some sports if you're into them. Rio has also hosted numerous world-class events, the most famous being the Summer Olympics in 2016 and the 2014 World Cup. There is, however, a geographical gap between the richest and poorest in Rio, and where possible, expats should be careful not to stray into areas of crime associated with them. Brasilia. This is the federal capital of Brazil, and it's become a UNESCO World Heritage Site 30 years ago. Many national companies have headquarters there, and it's a great place for entrepreneurs and professionals from all over the world to move to, mostly for work, but for possible retirement as well. It has a tropical savanna climate and is warm all year round, but not as humid as many regions of the country. Brasilia has a reputation of being a safe place to live, especially in the Central District. It has a lot to offer. There's a National Theater, the Federal Reserve Museum, the Museum of Brasilia, and many other renowned cultural institutions. There are also 2 professional soccer stadiums, many swimming pools, cinemas, and nightclubs. Fortaleza. This is a northern city and is a leader of the northeastern economy. Nature lovers will love Fortaleza's rich flora and fauna, its lagoons and nature preserve with abundant wildlife. There are stunning beaches here as well, and a water park that both tourists and locals adore. Number 3. Food in Brazil. Barbecued meat. This is spread in Brazil and Argentina, who both claim to be South America's barbecue champion. But each country has its different approach to its meat, from its cuts and the size quantities of meat, and it's best appreciated at a leisurely pace and a waistband on your pants. In Brazil, the most popular would be the rump cap, that is seasoned with no more than a liberal shake of coarse salt, before being grilled to pink perfection over charcoal or wood if you're doing it the old-fashioned southern way. There are sausages, cheese on a stick, chicken hearts, all manner of meats on skewers, from pork to lamb and wild boar sliced by waiters straight onto your plate. Feijoada. This means beans, and it's a staple with rice served almost daily in any Brazilian home. It's usually a heavy lunchtime treat, eaten in almost every corner of the country. It's cooked in a pot of black beans with various cuts of beef and pork meat, the traditional bean with pig's ears, and other leftover cuts. It has fried kale, rice, farofa, a salty delicious side dish made from small pieces of bacon fried with tapioca flour, and some slices of tangy orange for added flavor. It's usually slow cooked with the stewed beans and could take up to 24 hours. It's a food to be eaten slowly and savored. Amazonian cuisine. Fish is king in Amazonian cuisine. There's a noble fish, the pirarucu, the world's largest freshwater fish, and the tambaqui are just a few examples. They are all big meaty fish and almost boneless and delicious when grilled over charcoal. There are also smaller fish as well, and there is the freshness and special flavors, making them delicacies that are truly glorious. They are usually served grilled, but they can also be fried, served in tomato sauce, coconut milk, or stewed in tucupi. Number 4. Things to do in Brazil. Brazil is one of the few destinations on the planet that can satisfy every person because of how large it is and its attractions. Lots to do here in retirement to keep you busy for a lifetime. Let's look at a few places. Serra National Park. This has a canyon landscape and is one of Brazil's first national parks. The area is known to be difficult to access, but it's worth the effort for the incredible biodiversity. You'll be able to see waterfalls, subtropical forest, and endangered species. The park is currently going under conservation efforts, so only 1,500 visitors are admitted per day. You can get there early in the morning, and there are advanced hiking trails as well. Snorkel with turtles. Now, there are 21 islands off the coast of northeastern Brazil and many secret Brazil attractions around this area. There's not very much civilization around, and you'll find the opportunity to be one with nature. Adventurers come to the island often for snorkeling and scuba diving due to the year-round warm waters. If you ever wanted to see sea turtles or dolphins up close and away from tourists, now is your chance. Hiking. Brazil is a hiker's dream with a range of distances to climb. There are half-day hikes around the real areas, and they are all manageable and accessible. There are more challenging trails as well that takes days to climb, but the views from the top makes it well worth it. There are trails, of course, all around Brazil to explore as well to keep you busy in your retirement. Number 5. Cost of living in Brazil. Expats might be surprised to learn that the cost of living in Brazil is relatively high. Brazil remains the 7th largest economy on the globe, becoming such in early 2012. So that dream of lying on the beach sipping water from a coconut without a care in the world is quickly replaced by the reality of high prices. But expats would find it less expensive to live in rural areas than in the cities. There are still vast disparities in wealth between the richest and the poorest, however. While Brazil would be behind the US and Western Europe in terms of overall development, living in a city, expats have access to most of the conveniences they can expect to find anywhere in the world. Rental accommodation is expensive and will likely be an expat's biggest expense. You can save on accommodation by living in a less central location, although they may find that transportation costs increase as a result. Basic utilities for an apartment would be $120 between $73 and $200 USD per month. The internet would be $27 between $20 and $40 USD per month. An apartment 1 bedroom in city center would be $466 between $300 and $626 USD per month. An apartment 1 bedroom outside the city center would be $299 between $200 and $451 USD per month. An apartment 3 bedrooms in city center would be $860 between $626 and $1,127 USD per month. An apartment 3 bedrooms outside the city center would be $599 between $426 and $877 USD per month. Food costs in Brazil vary. Restaurant meals are fairly expensive, but basic groceries are more moderately priced. Expats who choose to eat at home can manage food costs more easily. Major cities have upscale grocery stores that carry a wide range of imported items. Another thing to keep in mind is that locally produced food is almost always less expensive. In cities on the coast, seafood will be less expensive, while beef and pork will cost less in inland farming regions. A meal in an inexpensive restaurant would be $6.27, between $5.01 and $8.77 USD. A meal for two people in a mid-range restaurant for a three-course meal would be $25, between $18.80 and $37.59 USD. You can live a comfortable lifestyle on about $2,300 per month, but 9 of 10 retired Americans receive Social Security, and together with their savings, it may end up being a good living. Number 6. Buy property in Brazil. Buying real estate in Brazil might or might not be a good idea. It's best to look at some determining factors like the Brazilian real estate prices and the Brazilian currency. Property prices in Brazil have been stable in the past 5 years, but recently property prices have started decreasing in most cities, with some major cities where prices have kept increasing, but very slowly. The lower prices have said to be from Brazil's political turmoil. The crisis that had started in 2013 when the central bank raised key interest rates 9 times to 11% in April 2014, causing a sharp economic slowdown. But for those that are still interested in buying property, it's possible to do so. You could potentially do it yourself or hire a lawyer. It depends on how familiar you are with Brazil and how much you are paying for property. You may have some solid connections with locals and may rely on trustworthy realtors to help with some of the acquisition steps. You can simply browse properties for sale and use the leading real estate websites in Brazil as well. Number 7. Healthcare in Brazil. Healthcare in Brazil is considered a constitutional right and is provided by the government and private institutions. Generally, public healthcare is provided to Brazilian residents and foreigners through the national healthcare system, which is widely known as the Unified Health System and is free to everyone. The quality of service in the public healthcare sector tends to be well below the standards expected by most expats, and those who can afford it often choose to rather make use of private medical facilities instead. The range of specialists available in Brazil depends on the city. Larger cities have a variety of private practitioners to choose from, but fees are also higher, whereas smaller towns are cheaper, but there are few options. Brazil's medical facilities and equipment are generally of a high standard. Brazil has fast become a medical tourism destination in South America because of the low cost of treatment. Many of the private hospitals in Brazil offer excellent treatment options for local nationals and expats who have health coverage. There are many pharmacies in Brazil, especially in the largest cities and towns, and the pharmacists tend to be knowledgeable and helpful. Pharmacies are generally open from early morning to well into the evening, and some pharmacies in the largest cities are open 24 hours a day. But it's best to get healthcare insurance due to the massive costs associated with some of the private healthcare. Health insurance is vital for expats in Brazil. There are a number of international health insurance companies for expats to choose from when looking for a healthcare plan in Brazil. Number 8. How to live in Brazil. Depending on your country of origin, many visitors are required to obtain a visa before entering Brazil. There is the e-visa requirements. The Brazilian government actually launched the electronic visa program in 2018, available to citizens from the US, Canada, Japan, and Australia. You're allowed a maximum stay of 90 days per year and is valid for 2 years. The e-visa does not mandate an in-person appointment at a consulate and can be completed entirely online, and the visa will take approximately 5 business days to be processed and issued. The documentation listing is available online publicly. Too many points to cover here. But for regular visa requirements, again, tourists from certain countries, including the United States, Canada, Australia, China, and India, are required to obtain a tourist visa before traveling to Brazil. Applicants will need to complete an online application and then make an appointment with a Brazilian embassy or consulate nearest to their residence. You may find that the exact requirements may vary slightly for each consulate. Details would be mentioned over your local government website. You also have the option to extend your visa in Brazil for an additional 90 days through the federal police in Brazil. You need to request the extension before the expiration of the authorized stay. With an extension, tourist visa holders are allowed to stay in Brazil a maximum of 180 days over a 12-month period. federal police offices are located at all major airports. The permanent visa Viper in Brazil may be granted to foreign nationals who intend to live in the country for more than 2 years and are married to a Brazilian citizen or permanent resident, to retired persons who receive a regular pension. Dependents may be included in the application, including spouse, dependents under 24 years of age, and parents. But there are a variety of other visas, such as the short-term business visa, temporary residence visa, the work visa, investor visas, and permanent visas that have further categories of their own, like in retiring in Brazil. People from other countries who are over the age of 60 can apply for a permanent visa if they have a pension of at least $2,225 USD per month wired to a Brazilian bank account, which covers the applicant and one dependent. Each additional dependent requires another $1,000 a month. But of course, you always want to refer to the government website for more specific up-to-date information, as these policies and regulations do change often. Now, Brazil has emerged as a new and significant global player, both economically and politically, and as such, there is an increasing number of expats from various fields that have considered to move to Brazil. As the bonus section, let's look at some of the pros and cons in doing so, starting with the pros. The weather. Many expats say they are generally happy with their lives, especially with the weather. The climate and weather are very good. The people. Brazilians are patient, warm, accepting, less individualistic, and more social. They are friendly and free-spirited, and you probably already know that they host one of the most famous parties on earth, Carnaval. If a Brazilian likes or loves you, you'll know about it. They tend to let themselves feel what they're feeling, rather than hiding it. They also tend to seek out the positive in any bad situation. The beauty. This country has beautiful white sand beaches, mountainous jungles, diving sites, and more. There are a variety of wildlife species to find here as well. And the cost of living is generally lower for the day-to-day living than in many Western countries, but it's more expensive for other things. Utilities and food generally cost about half of what they would in the United States. You'll find that you'll eat more and better for a lower price. Food. Fresh fruits, vegetables, meats, and seafood are readily available in all parts of the country. Additionally, due to less use of GMO and preservatives relative to Western nations, foods are much healthier than those available in more developed countries. No great natural disasters. There are no real earthquakes, no typhoons, no hurricanes, no tsunamis, and such. The only natural disasters that happen are landslides in the northeastern and southeastern coast when it rains. Now let's talk about the cons. Crime. A high percentage of expats say personal safety in the country is a potential disadvantage. There are issues with public security, lack of infrastructure, and social injustice. It's not just personal safety raising cause for concern, but the political situation as well. You'll likely never feel totally safe. You'll hear daily stories of crimes, not just from the news, but from your friends and neighbors. Finding a job. It's important to realize that settling down in Brazil and finding a job there has always required a considerable amount of dedication and a bit of good luck. But many who enjoy their lives in a bustling metropolis or a scenic coastal city say that getting a visa and moving to Brazil is well worth the effort. But sufficient knowledge of Portuguese is usually a prerequisite for finding employment in Brazil. Costs continue to rise. Although many say their household income is enough or more than enough to cover everything they need for daily life, the costs are rising. Quality items are a lot cheaper in the US, where you can buy high quality items for a fairly lower cost. But that isn't the case in Brazil. Electronics and appliances are expensive, and for actual quality items that work properly, they are really expensive. You need to speak the local language. Not as many people speak English as what everyone insists, and the people that you actually need to deal with on a day-to-day basis, groceries, vendors, the doormen of your building, definitely don't speak English. You'll need to be able to explain yourself in the local language. You'll need to get serious about language studies as soon as possible after moving to Brazil. Hard to make friends. Lots of people will assume you're transient. You're perceived as less worthy of time it takes to become friends. To make friends with locals, you'll need to speak the language. Expat friends are great, but they're likely to be transient as you are. The friendship with them is like a revolving door. You can try joining some activities as soon as possible after moving to Brazil. Also, no one is ever on time. Everyone is late. For dinner, meetings, classes, it doesn't matter. So this might be an annoyance. Some weeks you'll average wasting an hour or more just waiting on people to show up. Now, Brazil is a popular destination for expats because of its beautiful landscapes, easygoing people, and lower cost of living. Like any country, including the United States, there are areas to avoid, and navigating government red tape will be frustrating at first. But it still could be a great place as a retirement destination if researched more. Well, tell me what you think of living in Brazil in the comment section below. If you like this vlog, please don't forget to give me a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell for more of my coming content here. Thank you for watching my vlog. Be free, gain wealth, and travel far.